Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Google Hangout. I am Crystal Cargis with Eating Disorder Hope, and I am joined today by our special guests, Constance Rhodes and Travis Stewart. So welcome to both of you. We're so glad that you could be here with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. So you are both just incredible people in the eating disorder community, and you have done tremendous work for so many people who are suffering with eating disorders. So I wanted to just start out by having you both introduce yourselves and maybe tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what you do in the community. Constance, do you want to start?
I'm going to let Travis go first because my husband is about to walk in the door and I know the dog's going to go nuts.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm going to mute myself and I'll hop in after he goes.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, I can go first. My name's Travis. I've been working with eating disorders since 2003. Prior to that, I worked in campus ministry and ended up going back to school, graduate school, got a counseling degree, and long story that I won't tell right now, but I ended up working at a treatment center in Arizona and worked there for 8 years, mainly as a therapist. I've done marketing on and off. My undergraduate was advertising, so I have an interest in that, and I've done a lot of that too, but began to work there, and now I live in St. Louis, married. I have 2 kids. My daughter is starting her senior year in high school, and so I'm feeling old and scared about the future and all that. And then I have a son who's a sophomore, and then my wife's a professional organizer, so she keeps us all organized. So now about a little more than a year ago, I went into private practice full-time, and so I do counseling. I do coaching, recovery coaching, and a lot of that is doing it just like this on Skype and phone calls for people who have been in treatment and are now wanting to continue recovery, or maybe somebody who's not as severe that they don't necessarily need full treatment, but they want some encouragement or help with their recovery. So that's what I do with my time now, and I've worked with Constance for, I think, was it 8 years did we figure out? So we've known each other for about 8 years and worked together most specifically on the Hungry for Hope conference, which we just had again this summer in Nashville. So that's a Christian eating disorder conference that is now in Nashville. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Travis. And we've had the opportunity to have you contribute as a writer to Eating Disorder Hope and Addiction Hope, and you've just written some amazing articles, so we appreciate you, and we're glad that you could be here with us.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fairly new. Just in the last 3 weeks, I've started writing a lot more, so I'm starting to feel like a part of the family at the Eating Disorder Hope and Addiction Hope, and I'm learning to write more because it's so much involved, so.
Definitely. Well, we're happy to have you, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
All right, Ms. Constance.
Okay, so I've known Travis, like he said, for 8 years, and we met because he was hosting the Hungry for Hope conference. He founded that conference, and I founded a ministry called Finding Balance. We're a faith-based organization helping people find balance with food, weight, and wellness. And we connected for that conference. He and I became friends, and over the years, we've done a lot of different things together. Travis is a really kind of entrepreneurial guy. He loves connecting people. As you know, there at Eating Disorder Hope, we know that there's so many great people doing really great things out there, and everybody's working really hard. And some of us in similar ways, and so some of the things that Travis and I have done together over the years is trying to figure out how can we tap into who's out there and work smarter, not harder, and collaborate together. And so for several years we talked about the need for a very specific faith-based directory for counselors. There's so many great directories out there, and you guys do a great job, for example, listing counselors in different areas, and I think people are moving more and more toward getting better lists And we saw a need that, hey, for the people we serve, they're sometimes looking for very specific faith-based providers. And there was not a one-stop central for faith-based providers specifically for eating disorders. And so we started talking about, wouldn't it be cool to try and do that? And so that's what we're talking about tonight, the new Christian Eating Disorders Collaborative Network. I call it the CEDCN. I know that sounds weird, but IADEP sounded really weird when it started, I'm sure. And so we call it CEDCN, and our goal is to do two things. We want to connect Christians who are seeking Christ-centered care for their eating disorders, and then we want to connect Christian professionals who may want to interact with others who are treating this issue from that perspective so that they can share some commonalities, different tools that can make their practice stronger.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And that just kind of brings me into my next question, which is about the organization, Christian Eating Disorder Collaborative Network, right? And I just think it's so awesome that you have started and founded this. And, faith is so important for so many people who are recovering from an eating disorder. And to have that hope and a higher power, I think, for a lot of people is the motivation to get better. So can you both maybe tell us a little bit more about the organization and just why you are so passionate about it and what made you want to start it? I know you've touched on it a little bit, but we'd love to hear more.
Sure. Well, I'll speak first, and then Travis, you can jump in. But, I was raised in a Christian home. My mother had an eating disorder when I was young. And then I went to Bible college, and I had an eating disorder. When I developed my eating disorder in Bible college, the very well-meaning Christian people on campus thought that the answer would be to just pray about it and it would go away. And so that was a really frustrating place to be in. And yet when I went later to try and get help other places, they had really great other things to do, but the God piece was absent. And so what we found, and I noticed on your Eating Disorder Hope site tonight, there's even a clip from Dr. Camella where we had filmed him talking about faith and recovery and how important it is. And there are just folks out there that want that piece, and they want to even, in some cases, be able to say who their higher power is, And so we decided, okay, there's people out there that want that, and then there's Christian professionals who would love to be able to come together. In one of the hangouts we did, we actually prayed over each other. It's kind of a unique thing. Not everybody would want to do that, but for those who do want to, we can provide that. For the people who are struggling with the eating disorders themselves or someone they love, I would love to just show you a little bit of the tool that we have created. Is now the time, or do you want to hear more from Travis before we go look at stuff?
Yeah, well, let's maybe hear a little bit from Travis, and then we would love if you could maybe just walk us through the website. That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is probably true of most professionals, that they work with people from all backgrounds, and so not all of my clients, and certainly not all the patients I worked with over the years when I was in a treatment center had a particular faith or much faith at all. But when someone does see that as a value in their life, and the professional can combine, and integrate the faith into treatment, it has a powerfully unique effect. I would imagine it's a lot like if someone is able to understand a particular culture. So if somebody comes from Asia and they need treatment, someone who can understand that culture and goes out of their way, and even maybe if they're from that culture, there are some things that can happen that's just harder to happen when someone doesn't have that understanding or willingness or come from that culture. So there is a real value to that, particularly when somebody comes from that perspective. Also, what's also true is that in the Christian culture, in the church culture, there's things that are not healthy. There are things that are struggles, and so it's easier for me, coming from the Christian culture, from the church culture, to sometimes address the problems and be able to say, here's, I don't think that's a healthy part of what we as Christians believe, or we're not believing it correctly, and let's wrestle through that, and it doesn't feel like a threat to their faith because I'm also holding that faith.
Exactly.
You know, whereas if somebody from outside the faith challenge some of those things, it's hard to, you know, like they're feeling attacked sometimes. So it gives me a little more voice sometimes to be able to address those issues. And so, you know, it's great for someone who, like Constance said, who's looking specifically for a faith-based treatment provider. And when we say faith-based, we're, in this particular instance, we're talking about Christian faith-based, because there could be Jewish faith-based, there could be Hindu faith-based, you know, there could be all those different perspectives. But we're talking specifically Christian in this perspective. So.
Sure. Well, thank you, and I appreciate hearing that insight from both of you. And, you know, it's so apparent to see that this is something that you're so passionate about. So on that note, we would love to hear kind of more about the details about it and maybe see the actual website if that's possible. And like you've mentioned, Constance, there's so many directories out there, so it's nice that, you know, you created this with this really specific focus. And if you can maybe just share a little bit about what makes this unique compared to all the different sources that are out there.
Yeah, so I'm going to take you out. We'll see if I can do this well. I'm going to go back to the home page. So can you see that page right there? Is that coming up on your screen?
Nope.
Let's try it again. We'll try again. So, oh, I see. Okay, hold on. Now can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see right there at the top, the world's first Christian eating disorder resource and referral network. From the very top, I mean, it's in our name. The Christian faith is our foundation that we're operating from, and that those that we partner with are operating from in some way. So, for example, right now you're seeing Timberline Knolls on the screen. It'll move in a second. But Timberline Knolls, they serve people of all faiths, but they do offer a Christian track. Selah House provides distinctly Christian care. They're kind of set up that way. That's how they talk about what they do. Interact Counseling, which you'll see a slide for them in a moment, they're a very Christ-centered organization as well. Now, again, I want to be really clear that just because folks are Christian and providing Christian care, it doesn't mean they won't serve other people. So this is not meant to be discriminatory in any way.
Right.
Other than we are only looking for Christian professionals to list themselves here because that's what this is for. So in this case, that's the thing. So I'll just take you through a few little things. So you can see right there at the top that there's really two groups that we're trying to serve. The first is, are you looking to connect with Christian colleagues? So that's for the professionals, and I'll talk more about how to join and all that in a moment. And the second is, are you searching for Christ-centered care? So we're serving the professionals, and we're serving the people who want those specific Christ-centered professionals. And then if you look down, my screen's huge, so I hope you can see this, but you can see that we've got things grouped into 5 different categories. Treatment programs, the counselors, nutritionists, doctors, and coaches is all one category. Speakers, artists, and advocates is one category. Support groups is a category, and ministry resources. Now, this is a really new tool, and so right now what we are primarily focused on are the first 2 categories, treatment programs, and then counselors, nutritionists, doctors, and coaches, so those first level care providers. And so what you'll see in our treatment programs, and there aren't lots of them that do provide distinctly Christian care, so that's why you don't see a lot of them, or we just don't know about them yet. So if you're watching this and your program does provide a Christian track, let us know. But let's just go into one. Let's go into Selah House here. You can see right here what their philosophy is. You can see what their Christian components are. You can see the levels of care that are offered and ages and all this kind of stuff. What are the unique components? What's the campus like? What insurance does it take? And then if this one had a video, which Selah House doesn't, but another, I think Timberline does, you can watch a video right there on the page, and you can easily just go link to them. So at a glance, you know, somebody is able to just go, oh, hey, here's 4 different treatment programs. Here's where they are. Again, we would love to see more in here, but at least this is a start. And then if you hit this little search thing, this is another way to access some of what you see from the home page. I'm going to go back there and click on this. And here you're going to see, all right, here's a bunch of really awesome providers. Now, you guys probably know some of these. Of course, Travis is right here on the call with us. And let's go to Travis's profile, take a look at him. It's very similar, but we include a personal statement of faith. And so the person who's really wanting to know, I want my counselor to believe, you know, in the Bible or whatever it is, they can see that right there, and they can just call with that assurance of having figured that piece out, and then seeing, of course, some of these other basic things. As we grow, we'll round out a little bit more the speakers, artists, and advocates. There's not lots of us in here yet, but really where we want to focus first primarily is this whole counselors, nutritionists. You can search, like, let's see Nashville, that's where I live, and see, you can find your search for adolescents or for distance services, you know, like coaching. So hopefully this will work. Okay, this is not, it would figure that it won't work today. Let's see, Nashville without the TN. We'll see if that'll pull up for us. All right, so there's Juliet, another friend of Travis's. You can see that we need many, many more people in here. We know that there's thousands of counselors out there. And so what we're doing now, and we're grateful to be on your program tonight and doing other things like that, is so that we can really begin to let more and more people know about it. And I'll tell you just a little bit about, like, if a professional is watching and they want to join. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So if they want to join, and I can't lead you through the whole thing because I would have to enter personal information first, but all it requires, you've got a personal statement of faith that lines up with what this is about, and then it's just $99 a year. Or if it's a group, like a practice that may have several different counselors, it's just $149 a year, and you're able to just go through this process. And we also offer a lot of different discounts. Of course, you guys have a unique discount code that you can give your folks if they're interested. Because right now the goal is, let's just find out who you are. It's so not about dollars or anything. Let's find out who you are. Let's get you in here. Because then, as more and more people are in here, people are finding better care, and this is set up so that 10% of any revenue that comes in, we're going to then turn around and fund that out towards something, say our friends at the Kirsten Hagelin Foundation or somebody who's giving money toward treatment care. We will sort of tithe 10% out, and then the rest goes right into our work at Finding Balance, which is also a nonprofit. So all of this is a nonprofit effort. Our partners right now are Selah House, Timberline Knolls, Interact. We've done work with Greg Jantz at Place of Hope. I know you guys are good friends as well, and of course you guys. And I would love to see that there's just all kinds of logos down here within the next year.
Right.
And we're really just able to reach more and more people collaboratively, connecting together, and finding out, okay, here's something I do, but you do it better. What if you do this piece, but we do this piece better, so what if we do this piece, you know, instead of all of this redundancy of efforts.
Absolutely. Well, I just appreciate you sharing that, and the website is beautiful, and I really like how it's designed. I mean, everything looks great, so we appreciate you sharing.
Thank you.
So it's just, I think you've touched on some really important things. One is how this website and organization can be helpful to professionals, but also to sufferers who are looking to connect with treatment with specific Christian care. So can you tell us, I don't know if you were able to share the actual link to the website, but just where people can go to find the Christian disorder.
Yeah. So I know it's a mouthful, so it's going to take some time for people to get it, but we went through so many different, and Jacqueline with Eating Disorder Hope was even involved in some of these early conversations about what should we name it, what should we do. It's the Christian Eating Disorders Collaborative Network, so it's CEDCN.org, and you can find everything you need to know there, and soon we'll have a more obvious link on findingbalance.com. That's our parent, you know, website, but CEDCN or CEDCN.org. You can learn more about it there, and I don't remember off the top of my head what your discount code is, but maybe you can include that somehow, that you can tell folks about that, so that they can, you know, get a really nice discount on the front end for that.
Thank you so much, and it's so exciting to see this unfold and just to see your organization grow, so we look forward to being a part of that. Just kind of in closing, so you have these phenomenal resources, both of you, that have helped you in your counsel with eating disorder sufferers and their families. And you work with both professionals and the actual individuals who are suffering. So what encouragement might you offer, let's say, to a professional who's getting started in this field, who is Christian-based, and just kind of getting their bearings and getting their feet wet? I mean, what encouragement or advice might you offer, since you both have been on both sides of this?
That's a great question. I love providing resources. If Constance hadn't already started her organization, I probably would have started a website, something like it, because I just love, and I don't know, this is something maybe that we can add to the CE. I can't even say it.
You have to be able to say this, Travis. Come on,
you're representing. I can't even say it. CN.
Do it.
So anyways, but just resources like, here's great sermon, like there's some sermons on shame, or here's a book on, I think it'd be great to have things like that. And not only that we officially recommend, but also maybe a place on there where therapists can say, hey, I just read this book, it's really good. So anyways, so when you say that, when you ask the question, what resources can I recommend, or what advice, I think, two things immediately came to mind. Particularly for a young professional, to grow in this area. One is get around people who have worked in the field and who you trust and who you respect. And I mean, if you have to pay for their time, if you have to pay for supervision, if you have to Skype with them, get some coaching or consulting from people that you respect, and most people will be willing to do it. And sometimes you do have to pay, to get some coaching or things like that, but it's so worth it, because you need people who understand the field, and who are willing to kind of give you input to do that. The other thing that I would recommend is to read broadly. I honestly don't read that many books on eating disorders. I read books on all kinds of stuff that informs my work with eating disorders. I read books from the business section. One of my favorite authors is Daniel Pink. He wrote a great book on motivation called Drive. That has nothing to do with eating disorders, but it's really shaped how I think. How do I help motivate clients when they're stuck?
Sure.
I've read a book called Generation Me, which is about kind of the millennial generation and some of the specific struggles that they have. That shapes the way I think about clients who are sort of between, in the ages of kind of their 20s and early 30s. So read broadly. Don't just read the eating disorder books, because that's going to inform. Read good theology books. Stretch yourself and read outside of those things. And I think that's going to be that's how I learn. Some people may not be readers, but I would encourage you to find ways to expose yourself to other things, whether that's listening to sermons or teaching or webinars or podcasts. And yeah, don't stop learning just because you graduated.
That's great. That's great feedback. Thank you so much. And Constance, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I was just going to say, and this comes from the work that we do at Finding Balance, so that's a little more people who are in the thick of it, wrestling with these issues. I think that there is often a temptation once we become professionals. I'm not a professional counselor, but I'm a professional in the field. There can be a temptation to believe that we must now have it all together and we should not have to go to counseling, or we should not have to work on these different issues, because if someone finds out that we still have issues we're working on, they won't want to listen to us, and there's this really difficult place of feeling like, now I'm here helping people, which is really hard work, and I'm really afraid, to be honest, that I'm struggling with whatever the area may be. It might be food or something else. And so I think it's really important, like Travis said, to be around community both professionally and then personally, where you're being real about the continuing journey you're on, because we all are on a continuing journey, and where you're in with accountability and people who can help keep you healthy, because this is some of the hardest work out there. And it's very tempting to think, oh, I can do it, and then you get that savior complex and you're dying on the inside and burn out. You can't help anyone. So I think that's really important. That's another thing that this network is for, because we do envision down the road that there'd be sort of peer-to-peer support, you know, for the tough job that this is, and that encouragement that, hey, no one has this figured out, and just because you have letters after your name doesn't mean you're supposed to have it all figured out.
Exactly.
So I would encourage that. You know, that's an important thing.
And
Yeah.
I would add real quick that that's something we really didn't talk too much about. Constance mentioned it in passing, but that we haven't talked that much about with what the network's for. So the network in part is for people looking for treatment, and it serves treatment providers by getting their name out there. But the other thing that we really hope to do is provide ongoing education and resources for professionals. So that may be a conference, which we had the Hungry for Hope conference this year, which had a track specifically for this network. That may be online webinars. That may be book discussions. I mean, who knows exactly what all that'll entail, but we want it to be a place where people can come and get refreshed and encouraged and be resourced, so that we're pushing the field forward. Not just sort of providing marketing for, you know, therapists, which is great. That's a needed thing, but that's not what we envision as the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's so awesome, because I think burnout amongst professionals who serve the eating disorder population is very common. And so I think it's wonderful that you've created this organization for professionals to kind of come together and kind of lean on each other and learn from one another. So we're just so grateful that you both have poured your time and effort into creating something, because it's definitely a need that I don't think is talked about as much.
Well, and I want to just thank you guys, because like I said, Jacqueline was involved in very early conversations about this, and Eating Disorder Hope has really demonstrated a spirit of collaboration that is unique out there, and so I'm looking forward to getting to, you know, just continue growing together with people like you guys who are doing really important work and recognize the benefit of joining together and not everybody in their own little islands, you know.
Right.
So thank you guys for all that you do. It's really important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And just kind of in closing, I'd love to hear both of your thoughts, because obviously you serve, you know, the sufferers too, and that's a huge part of why your organization exists, is to connect individuals who are looking for Christian-based treatment. So what encouragement might you offer to somebody today who is struggling with an eating disorder and not really knowing what step to take or how to get started with treatment?
Travis, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
You make me go first every time.
I'm just trying to balance out, you know. Balance, like finding balance is name.
Constance is kind of like an older sister to me. So.
What? Older? No,
I'm older. No, we have a fun relationship where we get to tease one another quite a bit. So, you know, the first thing that came to mind was, I think I saw this on Facebook somewhere, like as one of those kind of inspirational, you know, little mini posters. It said, "Don't believe everything you think," which was just great. I mean, I love that idea, because I think terrible stuff about myself all the time, you know, and that's such a big part of an eating disorder, is getting stuck in that thinking about yourself or about your body or about food. And I just love that idea. Don't believe everything you think. You know, you need to learn to evaluate and think critically about your thinking. So that's one thing that just came to mind. You know, the other thing I think is continue to really seek to try to believe what God says about you and about himself. What does God say about himself? What's true about his character, his promises, and what does God say about you as it relates to who God says his relationship with you is? And so to continue to pursue those things, those are going to be foundational to recovery from anything, and freedom from suffering and pain in life. So those would be my encouragements.
Great wisdom. Thank you, Travis.
Travis always has such great things to say. And I would say this because we get that call all the time. It's always a different circumstance, but it's always the same thing. It's overwhelming. I've given up. You're my final call or whatever. And what should I do? Which is a huge question. And we all want a really quick answer to it. And what I have taken comfort in being able to say is, I don't know what you need for sure, but God does, and He is able to show you that. And He can do that by, all you have to know is what's the next right step you're supposed to take. And so I'll tell them, your next right step was to call me, and you just did. Awesome. Congratulations. And then I'll pray with them. Some of them, are surprised by that, and I'll say, what next right step? I ask God to show them what next right step can they take on this journey. And I just tell them, that's all you have to do. Just take that one next right step, and then you take another one, and then you take another one, and God knows what they are. We don't. So you can sort of relieve yourself of the pressure to have it all figured out, because you don't have to. And it may sound cliche, it may not sound specific enough, but I'm telling you, even people who don't have a Christian faith see signs, and coincidences and things that happen that can lead them forward. And then the final thing I would say, just on a very practical level, is if you are listening to this, you are wrestling with an eating disorder, and you want to learn more like what Travis is talking about, who is God and what does He think about stuff, we do have at Finding Balance an online support program where weekly we walk with you through that. So if you're interested in that and you're kind of like, how could I learn more about this, go to findingbalance.com and learn that. But that's the beautiful thing, is that you don't have, all you have to know is what am I supposed to do right now? And if you're not sure, reach out. Community is a huge part of it. We're all about community, whether it's professional community or recovery community. Like Travis said, get out of your stinking thinking. And a great way to do that is to be with other people.
That's wonderful feedback. Thank you so much to you both for your time and just for sharing what you do. It's just so apparent that you're so passionate, and just such a blessing to have you both with us. And we just really appreciate your work and stand behind you, and are just so excited to see everything unfold. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and encouragement with all of us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and just in closing, so one more time, if you're interested in learning about the Christian Eating Disorder Collaborative Network, got it, right? It's www.cedcn.org. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and then where can we go to find more about Finding Balance? And then Travis, if you can share where people can go to find out more about you and your practice as well.
Sure.
So Finding Balance is just findingbalance.com, and you can learn all kinds of stuff there. Travis? And
then I have two websites. One is recovery coaching website, and that's Revision Recovery. So ERVISION, recovery.com. That's for people looking for coaching in recovery. And then I have my website for just more general is my first initial is W, so wtravisstewart.com,
okay.
STEWART. And if someone's interested in getting coaching as a professional, that's where they could go.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Sorry.
But we thought we lost you there for a second.
Thank you both so much again. And that concludes our Google Hangout for tonight. Thank you so much to all our viewers who participated and joined our conversation this evening. And please feel free to visit our website as well, which is eatingdisorderhope.com, for some more great resources, and as well as our upcoming Google Hangouts and Twitter chats. So thank you, Travis and Constance, again. Appreciate your time, and look forward to talking more soon.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye, guys.